Throughout the Cold War, the Soviet Union sought to expand its influence by supporting insurgent movements worldwide, particularly in regions where anti-colonial struggles or ideological divides provided fertile ground for revolution. The KGB played a central role in this global campaign, orchestrating covert operations to arm, train, and fund insurgents. These efforts were not just about spreading communism, they were strategic moves in a geopolitical chess game to weaken Western influence and establish pro-Soviet regimes. The Soviet Union's support for insurgent movements spanned continents from Africa and Asia to Latin America and the Middle East. The KGB's involvement often began with identifying groups that aligned ideologically with Marxist-Leninist principles or were opposed to Western-backed governments. Once a group was deemed a viable ally, the KGB would provide support tailored to its needs, ranging from arms shipments and tactical training to financial aid and propaganda materials. In Africa, the KGB's influence was particularly pronounced during the decolonization period. The Angolan Civil War, which erupted in the 1970s, became a major battleground for Soviet-backed insurgency. The Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, a Marxist-Leninist faction, received extensive Soviet support through the KGB and Cuban military advisors. Weapons, funds, and intelligence flowed steadily to the MPLA, enabling it to establish control and ultimately win the conflict. Similar operations were carried out in Mozambique, where the KGB supported the Frelimo movement in its struggle against Portuguese colonial forces. Asia, too, witnessed the KGB's hand in insurgencies. In Afghanistan, the Soviets initially supported communist factions such as the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, which overthrew the monarchy in 1978. When the subsequent Soviet invasion in 1979 provoked resistance from the Mujahideen, the KGB's focus shifted to counterinsurgency efforts, infiltrating and sabotaging anti-Soviet factions. However, the operation became a quagmire, ultimately highlighting the limitations of Soviet intervention. Latin America provided another key theater for the KGB's support of insurgencies. In Nicaragua, the Sandinista National Liberation Front, FSLN, received extensive Soviet backing to overthrow the US-supported Somoza regime in 1979. Once in power, the Sandinistas established close ties with the USSR, and the KGB continued to provide training and arms to strengthen their hold on the country. Similarly, in El Salvador, the Farabundo Martí National Liberation Front, FMLN, benefited from Soviet aid funneled through Cuban intermediaries, sustaining its rebellion against the US-backed government. The KGB's operations weren't limited to direct material support. Propaganda played a crucial role in fostering insurgent movements. Soviet-controlled media outlets amplified the grievances of these groups, portraying them as freedom fighters against imperialist oppression. At the same time, the KGB worked to delegitimize Western-backed governments by exposing or fabricating evidence of corruption, human rights abuses, and neo-colonial exploitation. Training camps in the Soviet Union and allied countries such as Cuba and East Germany became hubs for insurgents. Here, fighters learned guerrilla tactics, sabotage, and the use of sophisticated weaponry. Some were even taught psychological warfare and how to build mass movements. These skills, imparted under the watchful eyes of KGB trainers, gave insurgent groups a strategic edge. While many of these operations achieved short-term successes, they often came with significant costs. The prolonged conflicts fueled by Soviet support led to immense human suffering, economic devastation, and political instability. Moreover, the USSR's involvement in these insurgencies drew sharp responses from the West, leading to proxy wars that exacerbated Cold War tensions. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked the end of the KGB's global support for insurgent movements, but the legacy of these operations lingers. The regions touched by these conflicts still grapple with the aftershocks, from unresolved political divisions to economic hardships. The KGB's role in insurgencies remains a stark example of how ideological battles can reshape nations and lives, often leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The story of Soviet-backed insurgencies is a complex one, both a testament to the power of covert operations and a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of ideological warfare. It serves as a reminder of the lengths superpowers will go to in their quest for dominance, and the enduring impact such interventions have on the world.